Hello again, my friends. Welcome to another episode with Healthy Actions Intervening Responsibly, known as HAIR. I am Jacqueline, the founder, and I am your host. I hope all is well with you and your family, and I hope that you're having some good times to work on you, to reflect, to plan for the future, and to just be you. That is my hope. In fact, that's my high hope. Well, I'm going to share one thing with you today about me. I absolutely love mugs. I love mugs. And I have one with me today that I'm just going to share with you. And I see, feel, and know that congrats is in order. Congratulations. Congratulations on your boss moves. Congratulations on the things you're doing for you, your self-care, your new business, your new baby, family, connections, reading a book, writing a book. Congrats, my friend. Congrats on your anniversary. All those things that bring us to a place of celebration today, I'd like to start out by saying congrats to you. So today, I am really excited about our topic. And I believe and feel that this topic is certainly in order. It's in order every single day throughout our entire lives. That word is healing. Healing. I'm going to basically do a short presentation that I've done at many trainings, conferences, workshops across the nation, which brings me right back to the word congrats. My work is expanding even further across the nation. I know that it is a necessary work, and I'm sure by now you too are convinced that this work is necessary on addressing adultification of children. So I'm going to start with this, talking about the different types of trauma. There are 3 types of trauma that I'm going to speak about today very, very briefly. Acute trauma. This is the results from a single stressful or dangerous event. Many of us have experienced an acute trauma event. It's a single dangerous event. Chronic trauma. This results from repeated, prolonged exposure to highly stressful events. It can include cases such as child abuse, bullying, or domestic violence. And the third type of trauma is complex trauma, which is exposure to multiple traumatic incidents. So that's more than 1, more than 2, more than 3, and for some people they've had 5, up to 5 different types of traumatic experiences and exposure to traumatic incidents. I love the book of Bell Hooks that talks about her experiences of having love and her experiences during her childhood. She said, since love is about knowing, we have more meaningful relationships, love relationships, when we know each other and when we take time to know each other. I'd like to take this moment to do a quick reflection of those love moments, love relationships, times where I gave love, I expressed love, or my intentions were to express love. However, that individual who I was giving that love to, of what I thought, may not have seen it as love at all. And we've talked a lot about in different circles, in various conversations about love language. And so what that means and what I take away from that is that the individual determines what love looks like for them or what love means to them. I know, we've been taught and conditioned to give love the way we understand it, the way we see it, the way we think about it. But that doesn't necessarily mean another individual sees it as love at all. So, takes me back to this point. Taking time to get to know each other, which then means getting to know what we like and what others like. So Bell Hooks said this: when I was a child, it was clear to me that life was not worth living if we did not know love. Then she said, I wish I could testify that I came to this awareness because of the love I felt in my life. She said, it was love's absence that let me know how much love mattered. I still reflect today on trainings that I conducted a year, 2, 3 years ago, where adults made themselves vulnerable and shared that they did not feel loved by their parents, and the multiple reasons why they did not feel love. Well, Bell Hooks said, I cannot remember when the feeling of being loved left me. I just know that one day I was no longer precious. What are some of the things we can do that will help our children to be reminded that they are loved? To help them feel a sense, have a sense of being and feeling loved. She said, those who had initially loved me well turned away. That's a journey that I also took myself down recently. Where is it, or where was there any moment in my life where it felt that love left, or where it felt that those who protected me were no longer there? And I must say, that is a very painful journey and reflection. But in my opinion, I feel it's very necessary, because perhaps maybe that's where I can build from that place and pick myself back up from that place. As I've heard many people say, if you feel that your parents did not love you when you were a child, or did not provide for you what you needed when you were a child, as an adult, you can give that to yourself, or at least work on giving that to yourself, and then ultimately reparent yourself. Give yourself what you needed as a child. Bell Hooks also said, for years I lived my life suspended, trapped by the past, unable to move into the future. How many of our children might be feeling this at this very moment? And if there are children in our midst who feel that way, do we know who they are? Are we recognizing that we have children in our very midst who feels suspended, who feels trapped by the past, and who feels like they are not able to move into the future? I know very often we assume that people have what they need, have the critical thinking skills, have the decision-making skills, have the planning skills to move themselves into the future. Like every wounded child, Bell Hooks continued, I wanted to turn back time and be in that paradise again In that moment of remembered rapture, where I felt loved, where I felt a sense of belonging. And I believe these two pieces go together. A sense of feeling loved and a sense of belonging. I'm thinking about it this way. If I feel loved in my family, then I feel I belong in my family. If I feel loved in my community, then I have a sense of feeling belonging in my community. Feeling loved in my congregation, my mosque, my synagogue, I would have a sense of belonging in my mosque and my synagogue. Let's think about what that can really do for people and their sense of worth, self-worth, value, and self-esteem. That then means they feel heard. So many voices that I've heard across this nation, that I hear those voices even right now, where there have been many adults who felt like the burden of the family and responsibility was completely on their shoulders, did not make them feel loved. Many of them talked about not being allowed to participate in activities of their own interest because they had to take care of someone or take care of something on behalf of the family. And at points like that, those were very critical years and stages of development in their lives, where they saw it more as, and it was like interrupting that development, interrupting their growth, interrupting the phase and the stage of childhood development. The other thing is I wanted to share is talking about love, once again, talking about love and its correlation or the intersection of healing. So one exercise in Bell Hook's book, she talked about writing poems of love. Girls talking about love, writing love stories, and I reflected on my life, and yes, I did a lot of writing. A lot of my short stories and poems were about love. But then the stage and the age came where if you're talking about love, you're not taken seriously. Or if you're talking about love, you're looked at as if it's problemsome, or burdensome, or troublesome, and that it's abnormal. Or then this question about being sexually active comes in, and this conversation sparks into not getting pregnant and being careful. When I can say for myself, well, I was just really interested and wanting to talk about love. But then that phase and the stage came where others in my life was seeing it more as like an uh-oh moment. And it was always associated and connected with a boy. And being careful. And not getting pregnant, and getting out of high school without bringing a baby into the house. And so, just that innocence and that purity and that sense of freedom to talk about love, to explore it, to express those feelings, to explore those feelings about love. During girlhood, many of us were not taken serious when we talked about love, or even when we said we were in love. We weren't taken seriously. Even to the point that many of us turned outside. We turned to movies, songs, books, friends. We turned in so many other places other than family. Other than family. And so many times it isn't safe to talk about love in the family. Some adults have shared with me as I do this work, where they talk with older relatives about love. Those conversations became inappropriate. And in some incidents, those conversations that turned inappropriate turn into assault, turn into violations, turn into abuse, turned into rape. I like to see the topic of love to become normalized in our family relationships and safe in our family relationships with male relatives. And that they don't become opportunities to take advantage of a younger family member who's excited about love. So, generational and individual trauma is a real topic and requires some serious work and time. Many families have legacies of poverty, poor mental health, poor physical health, as it relates to as a direct result of trauma, which are those dangerous incidents, experiences, stress events, racism, prejudice, discrimination, cumulative exposure, on and on, from generation to generation, and where many of those traumatic experiences and incidents are still alive and reside in many of our bodies, that determines and dictates how we navigate the world, society, our communities, even our families. Strong cultural identity and community, family connections often enhances resilience. Those cultural connections. Cultural identity, I have found to be tools that aid me on my path and journey of healing. The way shame is experienced and handled by survivors of child sexual abuse, of exposure to domestic violence, the way we experience those incidents, the way we talk about or don't talk about those incidents, the way we shame others for their experiences, the way we dismiss their experiences, the way we silence their voices. And the response to trauma does vary. Someone might do a lot of laughing, where another might do a lot of crying, and someone else might express their response to trauma through art, through music, through telling their stories, telling their experiences. Someone might do a lot of joking, which means we need to allow people to be themselves and to bring their full selves And we should create an environment for people to bring themselves fully in and make those environments safe. Not everyone feels safe to express themselves or to even share what their traumatic experiences have been. And as I get ready to transition and bring us to a close today, I'd like to give a reminder of the definition that I use to do my work on adultification. It is a premature empowerment of a child to assume authority, acquire knowledge, and function in the roles typically associated with adulthood. And the age bracket where adultification is known to happen is at the age of 5 years old. And one incident that was recently shared with me that I'm finding common across our nation: kindergartners. Whereas they are typically labeled as being mean, being a crybaby, being a bully, being fast, being too grown, being a troublemaker, and being aggressive. Those are some of the common things that I've heard about 5-year-olds. And where 5-year-olds are generally labeled as such is in their schools and the classroom. One example that I learned about in several different places now is where children are sharing their cookies at school. And they are expected to remember and function as an adult. Don't share your food. Stay in your seat. Don't touch your friends. No hugging allowed. Keep your mask on. Well, I tell you, I found many adults are forgetting. So excited to see a loved one, a friend, their pastor reconnected to their church members and choir members, forgetting about the rules, or just all together saying, hey, the heck with those rules, I see my friend. However, we are expecting 5-year-old kindergartners to remember those rules and are held to the same standard as adults are. Well, many of those kindergartens that I'm making reference to right now has been labeled as a problem, a troublemaker, or, oh, I see what kind of year this is going to be. Oh, I see the trouble we need to prepare for. And these are things I have heard several educators say. So what can we do? How can we remind ourselves about childhood innocence and childhood humanity and children's behaviors based on their developmental stage, and the stages and phases of growth? I think we need lots and lots of reminders that our children deserve to have access access to childhood humanity. And how can we do better by demonstrating love to every child we come in contact with, every child that crosses our path, and not see them as miniature adults, as was the case historically speaking? How can we allow children to have access to their human rights as the UN lays out for children to have a life that is full of humanity versus dehumanity? How can we help children to have access, to gain access to childhood humanity? And how we can do that is by demonstrating, exhibiting, practicing the very behaviors that are necessary to humanize people in general, to humanize children, to humanize their parents. As I say at the end and the conclusion of every show, we have so much work to do. It is a necessary work. It is a work that is absolutely, undoubtedly possible. And I'm so glad that you have tuned in again to another show, an episode of Healthy Actions Intervening Responsibly, known as HAIR. I am Jacqueline, the founder, and I have been your host. Thank you for joining me today.